Okay.
And we're rolling.
So at some point, this turns into a real addiction, where you're losing control, you're getting in trouble, and you can't stop.
Okay. Can you give me an example? You know, I mean, I certainly don't expect you to compromise anybody's anonymity or anything like that, but just like
Oh, sure, like a real kind of patient example?
Yeah, of unmanageability of sex addiction.
Okay, well, I just had a patient earlier today who has been using various forms of sexual stimulation, you know, as a way of releasing tension, making himself feel better. And at one point, his wife caught him, and oh, you know, he made a lot of apologies, and this is never going to happen again, and this is a one-off deal. And, you know, I guess she believed him, and that went on for a while. And then one day he said to her, you know, I'm wondering if you want to, you know, go to a party and where there's going to be some people, and, you know, we're going to maybe swap partners. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? And obviously he hadn't been reading the signs, and that's a sort of impulsive thing to say. You really must really want your wife to do that, or else you wouldn't do it. And then at some point, you know, she found some receipts in his wallet that he'd been, you know, getting massages or some kind of service. And she's like, well, what's this? And he's like, oh, you know, I just go for a massage. And I think she looked into it a bit, and she found out that this wasn't just a massage, and she confronted him, and, you know, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And then another time later on, he said, how about if we go to this nudist camp that I read about on one of the local islands? And she's like, have you lost your mind? I'm not interested in it. And what's going on here? And at some point she said, you know, that's just about enough. The children and I are leaving. So this guy comes in to see me, and he's separated, he's lost access to his children, and his wife is, you know, proceeding to take, you know, legal action because he couldn't control his need for sexual stimulation. That's an addiction. That's a sex addiction.
What are the most extreme consequences that you've confronted in your practice with people who suffer from sex addiction?
In my practice? Well, I mean, they run the gamut from people getting sexually transmitted diseases to people getting involved in drug use as a combination with their sexual activities, to people being sexually assaulted as a result of their sexual activities, to people being, you know, hugely traumatized for years after because they got involved in a sexual relationship that became an abusive relationship. You know, people spending money, you know, like they would on any addiction, to the point of financial, not quite ruin, but certainly negative financial consequences. You know, any negative consequence that you would get with any other kind of addiction, you can have it with a sex addiction, plus a few other ones, like your wife takes a golf club to the back of your truck and you hit a fire hydrant and your entire $10 million advertising career goes down the drain. That would be a pretty extreme consequence of inability to control your need for sexual stimulation.